Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Cavan-Smith. Tonight, Kenya's Chief Justice says that attempts to intimidate Supreme Court judges after they nullified President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election last month have been unlawful and savage in nature. The remarks come the evening before the Supreme Court is due to release the details of why they cancelled the vote. Also, weeks after she was arrested on charges of tax evasion and forgery, Diane Rwigara, a leading critic of Rwanda's President Paul Kagame, remains convinced that she's being politically persecuted. She speaks to France 24 about her time in captivity and her fears for her country. And arrivals of migrants crossing the Mediterranean into Italy from Libya have fallen to drastic lows over the last few months. Libyan militia were reportedly charged with stopping migrants from setting off. Italy says it had nothing to do with any such arrangement. But first, Kenya's Chief Justice has condemned threats levelled at members of his court over their annulment of last month's presidential election. Demonstrators angry that President Uhuru Kenyatta's win was reversed have been protesting outside of the Supreme Court this week. Its order for another race between Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga has infuriated the ruling party. Now, Chief Justice David Maraga has denounced calls for judges to be removed.
Senior political leaders have also threatened the judiciary, promising to cut it to size and teach us a lesson. These attacks are denigrating, demeaning, and degrading, and are meant to intimidate, threaten, and cow the institution and individual churches. Such acts are not only unlawful, but also savage in nature.
Well, on Wednesday, the court will give details of the irregularities that led it to cancel the polls. Another vote is scheduled for October the 17th, and tensions about whether that will go ahead are already mounting. Julia Stairs joins us now. Julia, tell us a bit more about some of the alleged intimidation that the Supreme Court is complaining of.
Well, as we heard Chief Justice Maraga say earlier this evening, they've really been facing threats of different levels from all sorts of sources. So they've been facing really vicious attacks online and on social media from supporters of President Kenyatta's Jubilee Party, and as he said, from high-ranking politicians themselves. So President Kenyatta, just hours after they originally handed down this ruling that overturned the election, called them crooks that were beholden to the international community. And in the weeks since then, we've seen his representatives on the campaign trail saying very menacing things about them along the lines of, we'll set them straight, and after this next election, they'll clean house. And of course, as we saw today in the protests, his supporters have really followed suit. It's also important to note that there are hundreds of court cases going on around the country that are also petitioning to overturn local election results and results of MP elections. And the Chief Justice today said that in the lower level courts, members of the judiciary are also facing threats. So it's really coming at them from all sides. And as he said, it's very worrisome.
And what has the response been from the police?
Well, at the protest today, of course, we did see the police respond as they ramped up and got a bit more violent. They responded with some tear gas, but by and large, and the Chief Justice also said today, there has not been much of a response from police. So there were other protests going on in and around Nairobi today, not just at the Supreme Court, and many eyewitnesses there said that there were no police on scene. The Chief Justice himself said that there has been a widespread failure to protect other judges of the court and their staff who have faced actual physical threats of violence, and that the police and the security services here in general have been slow to respond or have not responded at all.
Thanks very much. Julia Stairs there for us in Nairobi. Well, weeks after she was arrested on charges of tax evasion and forgery, Diane Rwigara, a leading critic of Rwanda's President Paul Kagame, remains convinced that she is being politically persecuted. The only female challenger in last month's elections before she was disqualified for allegedly submitting the names of deceased voters. She strongly denies those allegations. Rwigara has spoken to our correspondent in Kigali about the conditions of her detention and her concerns about freedom of speech in Rwanda.
We spent the last 3 weeks, day and night, in the prison, me and my sisters. The conditions weren't ideal.
Dans des conditions qui ne sont pas très faciles.
The first days we were handcuffed all day. We didn't have anything to eat. And until now, we haven't been able to talk to a lawyer. At least, I haven't had access to a lawyer. They're doing this in retaliation because I dared to criticize the government, the FPR, the ruling party. That's why Rwandans prefer to stay silent and they don't dare to speak out, because people who do dare to say what they think in this country pay a hefty price. But I don't regret what I did, and if I had to do it all again, I would. We shouldn't let the state, that is supposed to protect us, we shouldn't let it abuse us. My family survived the Tutsi genocide, and we didn't survive it to then suffer at the hands of the ruling party.
Well, our team in Kigali did try to contact police there to get their response. Their spokesperson said that they were unavailable for interview, but did say that the force rejects Rwigara's account of her time in detention and claim that all prisoners' rights are respected and that they are given access to a lawyer. Now, the postponement of Tunisia's first municipal election since 2011, the year of the revolution, is a setback to its transition to democracy. They had been set for December, but then a new date in March next year was proposed. But party chiefs and the government still haven't been able to agree on a schedule. Charles Pellecrin has the details.
It was seen as the next step in Tunisia's transition to democracy. But municipal elections that were meant to be held in December have been pushed back. Rashid Ghannouchi, the head of Islamist party Ennahda, which is allied with the government, said this sent a negative message to the world, but ultimately accepted the decision.
We accepted the postponement and the date proposed by the Electoral Commission.
The new date has not been agreed upon and will be discussed again in 10 days. Dialogue is breaking down and skepticism is growing, especially as the Electoral Commission's former chief resigned in May, saying he couldn't work independently and impartially.
At the moment, we're questioning what we're seeing. We question the independence of this Electoral Commission.
The local poll is meant to elect thousands of officials to replace provisional delegations set up in the aftermath of the 2011 uprising. But voter turnout is a source of concern, with just 500,000 registered out of a possible 3 million. Adding to the tension is a cabinet reshuffle by President Beji Caid Essebsi that saw the return to power of Ben Ali-era officials, a move seen by many as an attempt to tighten his grip on power.
Arrivals of migrants crossing the Mediterranean into Italy from Libya have fallen drastically over the last few months. Numbers were down by more than 80% in August compared to a year before. Increased sea patrols and a suspected deal with Libyan militia charged with stopping migrants from setting off from Sabratha may have now fallen through. The arrangement has attracted fierce criticism, and Italy's denied it ever existed. Nicolas Chemin tells us more.
Last weekend, 1,800 migrants were rescued off the coast of Libya. Similar figures to those recorded during the peak at the beginning of the year. The numbers plummeted during the summer. In August, the figure was down 87% on the previous year. So why in recent days has the number of migrants leaving Africa surged again? Many depart from the town of Sabratha in western Libya. Experts believe a secret deal between Italy and the Libyan militia has just been dropped. It was reportedly struck between Italian Interior Minister Marco Minniti and Ahmed al-Dabashi, a militia chief from Sabrata. The militiamen used to be human traffickers, but in exchange for $5 million, the smugglers initially stopped the migrants from leaving Libya.
Italy made deals with criminal groups. They then became stronger, so Italy faced the risk of blackmail or a change in their strategy, and there isn't much Rome can then do about it.
According to Italian media, the initial deal was abandoned after Rome started talking to a rival militia. The Italian government has denied the existence of any agreement.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Take care.